how important is brain health in the long run, and what can we do ultimately to optimize it?
It's incredibly important because we've spoken about the body a lot today, but it's great to have a great body, but if you don't have the brain to accompany it, it's a little bit not so great. So thinking about the brain, for years, up until very recently, they used to believe that the brain stopped growing when we did. So when we stopped growing, and the brain did the same. But then they discovered neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity basically means creating new neural pathways and encouraging us to grow. Like, we can grow, we can develop, we can learn new things. We're no longer set with the same level of intelligence. We can grow, which we never thought possible before. And there are three main mechanics I just want to talk about, which are quite relevant with neuroplasticity. And the first one is called myelination. So you know when you're really good at something and you know naturally quite good at it, and you repeat it until you become even better. What happens then on this little pathway is that it gets covered in some kind of fatty myelin. I think it's called myelin, and then it becomes a fast pathway. So it's something you just are able to do, and it becomes like your superpower.
Is that almost like having a talent, being naturally talented at something?
Exactly. And that's kind of your really fast pathway. And there are fast pathways and slow pathways. And fast pathways are great because if you put your hand in the fire, you want that to come out quickly, and that's a fast pathway. And pain tends to be a slow pathway. Because if you put your hand in, you don't want the pain to stop you pulling it out. So there are fast and slow pathways. And then you have something which is synaptic connection. Now that's when you kind of, you can do something, and the more you try it, you can get really good if you practice and repeat and really strengthen that pathway. And that's something that you do when you have one neuron that hits another neuron, then it connects. So that's that. And then there's the third thing, which is something we're learning more and more about, which is called neurogenesis. And neurogenesis is the renewing and the upgrading of the brain. And this enables us, it's such an important thing because it's when you have new embryos that turn into full-grown neurons, and then ideally they get synaptic connection, and then they get myelinated and become fast pathways ideally. But the thing is, it all happens in the hippocampus, which is when you're a child, there are loads of them, but as you get older, they tend to decline. And there are things which make lots of neurogenesis, and there are things which kind of suppress it. And so it's so important to look at that and how we can create it, because when you have neurogenesis, it is so good for your cognitive function. It's good for your memory, so you can get faster memory, you can get more memory, your emotional resilience is so much better, and you can deal with scenarios like stress and anxiety, and you just generally have a better quality of life. And that's what you want to go going forward, because you don't want to go in that element of middle-age decline, which is something that we all assume that you get to about 40 and 50 and then you start to trail off. And if you don't have a high level of neurogenesis, that's what does tend to happen.
So cultivating greater neurogenesis and really enhancing that is what we want to aim for, but we also want to reduce the things that are hindering our ability to have the neogenesis process.
Totally. And so there are things which hinder it, which actually make our brain go smaller, which literally, it really slows it. Those things are things we pretty much know about, which are stress, which is number one, and inflammation, which is very much linked into that. And also if you have brain damage, that's another third one. So they're the things which really affect it. The things that we want to do are then to bring it up. So the things we can do is to create a really wonderful environment, and that makes a difference. Things that the foods you eat are really important. So if you eat like blueberries, like dark-coloured fruits and vegetables, they are like they're like the god of food. Those and omega-3s, they're really good for it. Things like sleep is so incredibly important.
It's where we regenerate. It's where every pathway in our body sort of supercharges.
And we've always been told to have 7-8 hours sleep, and we're like, why? Because you go through the sleep cycle, your 90 minutes, and you go into the deep regenerative sleep that we know about. That is, where we regenerate. However, there is also something which they've discovered that only happens after like 7 to 8 hours, which is so important for us to get those hours. And it's called 𝕈𝕝𝕗𝕚. I'm going to forget the name of it now.
That sounds like a complicated
lymph
term.
nodes. There's like lymph nodes, like lymph nodes, but glimpflammation. God, I'm going to forget the name today. And
I love that.
I love that we're talking about the brain and we're all stumbling at this
all
stage.
stumbling, it's so late. But what happens here, every night when you go to sleep in that period, it's like a flushing of the of all of your toxins in your brain. And the process takes 7 to 8 hours, and it gets rid of all of the the plaque that creates.
It's a detoxification of the brain, essentially.
It is, and it's so essential for you to get that many hours sleep, because otherwise you're not flushing it through. It's been shown that it really does hinder neurogenesis, so the creation.